Have you ever looked at your bank account 3 days after payday and wondered where all the money went? It's one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. You've worked 40 or 50 hours a week, you've put in the effort, and yet the numbers on your screen just don't seem to reflect that hard work. It's like a magic trick without the applause. You can't invest in stocks, you can't buy real estate, and you certainly shouldn't be buying a depreciating car until you have a plan for the money you are already making. This is where the 50-30-20 rule comes in. It is a simple, effective blueprint that stops the bleeding and starts building your future. If you don't have a plan for your money will find a plan of its own, and that plan usually involves making someone else rich. To fix this, I want you to visualize your income as a pie. In a perfect world, that pie is divided into three distinct slices. 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, and the final 20% goes to your savings or paying off your debts. But before we start slicing, we have to talk about the most important number, your net income. Many people get confused here. They think, I make $60,000 a year, so I have $5,000 a month to spend. That is a dangerous mistake. $60,000 is your gross pay. By the time the government takes their slice for taxes, Social Security, and health insurance, you might actually be looking at something closer to $3,800 or $4,000. That take-home pay, the money that actually hits your bank account on Friday, is the only number that matters. If you don't base your budget on your net income, you're essentially planning with money you don't actually have. Let's dive deep into that first 50% slice, your needs. These are the non-negotiables. These are the bills that, if you stopped paying them, your life would fundamentally fall apart. This includes your housing, whether you are paying a mortgage or rent. It includes your basic groceries, not the fancy steak dinners, but the actual food you need to survive. It covers your essential utilities like water, electricity, and heat. It also includes your insurance, especially health insurance, because as we all know, one medical emergency without insurance can wipe out years of hard work. My definition of a need is simple. It is something that would cause a major crisis in your life if it were gone tomorrow. If you didn't have food, shelter, or transportation to your job, you would be in serious trouble. That is what this 50% is for. Now, a common problem I see is that people live in a city or a house that is too expensive for their income. If your rent alone is taking up 45% of your check, you only have 5% left for everything else in this category. That is a red flag that you might be house poor, and it's one of the biggest reasons people feel like they can never get ahead. Next, let's talk about the 30% slice, your wants. This is the category where most people run into trouble because we have become experts at lying to ourselves. We have convinced ourselves that our wants are actually needs. A want is something that improves the quality of your life, but your survival doesn't depend on it. If you cut out your Netflix, Hulu, or HBO Max subscriptions, you might be bored on a Tuesday night, but you're not going to lose your home. If you stop eating out at restaurants and start meal prepping at home, it might be an inconvenience, but you'll be perfectly fine. This category covers things like shopping for new clothes when your old ones still fit, going to the movies, or spending money on your hobbies. I want to be clear, I am a huge fan of hobbies. Whether you love gardening, flying drones, or video editing, hobbies are what make life worth living. But we have to be honest, these are lifestyle choices. You aren't going to drop dead if you don't buy the newest pair of sneakers or the latest tech gadget. A want is something that makes life more fun, but it should never come at the expense of your financial security. If you find that your 30% wants are creeping up to 40 or 50%, you're essentially stealing from your future self to pay for a moment of fun today. Finally, we have the most important 20%, your savings and debt repayment. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. This 20% is what separates the people who stay broke from the people who build real wealth. This slice is dedicated to three things. First, your emergency fund. I recommend saving at least 6 to 12 months of living expenses. I know that sounds like a massive, unreachable number, but think about the peace of mind it brings. If you lose your job or your car transmission explodes, it's not a tragedy anymore, it's just a minor inconvenience because you have the cash sitting there. Second, this 20% is used to smash your debt. I'm talking about high-interest credit cards and student loans that are acting like an anchor on your life. Use this money to pay them down as fast as possible so you can stop paying the bank interest and start keeping that money for yourself. And finally, this is for your retirement. Most people ignore retirement until they're in their 50s, and by then, they've missed out on decades of compound interest. A little bit of money invested in your 20s and 30s is worth 10 times more than money invested in your 50s. This sounds like common sense, but common sense is not always common practice. Until you actually sit down, look at your bank statements, and categorize every single dollar into these three buckets, you are just guessing. And guessing is not a financial strategy. You might be surprised to find out that you're spending 20% of your income on dining out and only 2% on your future. That realization is the first step toward freedom. I know this isn't some flashy, get-rich-quick scheme, but the truth is that wealth is built through boring consistency. If you can master the 50-30-20 rule, you will never have to worry about where your money went again. You'll know exactly where it's going, and you'll know it's working for you. If you have a friend or a family member who is constantly stressed about money, please share this video with them. A lot of people are getting a huge benefit from these breakdowns, and I want to help as many of you as possible. I don't ask for anything in return except that you take action on this information and share it with someone who needs it.